So I want to talk about innovation today. I want to talk about pivoting. I want to talk about adjusting, but I'll give you some insight. Ready? So I coach 17 different CEOs of real estate companies. One has 90,000 agents for context. One has 27,000 agents throughout all of Europe, right? So, these are major players in the space. We did a sort of late April, early May survey from, executives to managers. And here's what we discovered. About 45% of every real estate agent took a 12-week unpaid vacation. They essentially furloughed themselves. And yes, some of them were in non-essential markets. There was only a few left at the end. New York, obviously very fickle. Hoboken, as an example, where one of my top clients works. But places like Philadelphia, where they were completely shut down and couldn't do anything, or parts of Detroit where they were shut down. And yet, with all of that going on, you're exactly right. It really is those that did the work and those that were in a state of fear. And I don't mean to dummy it down to just that simple, but
that's always the case. But I assume there's micro, so that's yes, period.
Of course.
I mean, that's just always the case. Like there is no success in being crippled by fear and curling up, right? Now, do not confuse that with being thoughtful and conservative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was appropriate for people to hoard cash and not, there was a lot of money to be made in real estate, in the stock market in that 2-week period.
Yep.
But I didn't deploy capital into it, even though I thought there was some opportunity, because it was just too early. I don't like making decisions when you don't have all the information.
Bingo. But do you think now, because look, so we're 108, 109 days-ish into, as we're recording this, at least certainly from California, in a stay-at-home, work-from-home environment. Do you think there's enough time that's now passed that we can, have a deeper, more insightful projection into the future?
I don't, but I'm also not a macro global economic kind of like savant. And so what I mean by that is we've printed a lot of money. The people that need it most have stunningly spent it.
Mm-hmm.
As of this second, the situation seems really in flux. Americans and humans in general don't have the greatest patience. And right now people are super out and about. And I think we've seen, staggering growth in certain markets, and Florida and Texas and Arizona have been well documented, but I think these are in cycles. All of a sudden New York and New Jersey looks good. And then I have a feeling come September, they won't look good because now we're good and we're going to go outside. I think we're in a real pickle here. I don't think, first of all, we've created a society where everything is politicized. The fact that wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is a political issue is really unfortunate. Regardless of what the right answer is, it means that 50% are not going to agree. And so I think that we're in a really tricky spot here. I'm not saying, well, this is where we're at. I think there's a lot of people out of jobs. I think there's going to be more people out of jobs again as a second wave kicks in. I think the fall and winter is confusing. No, I'm personally not in a place of like, this is figured out just yet.
Yeah.
I do think that the ability to work from home for a lot of businesses is figured out. I at VaynerMedia feel like comfortable if people work from home now in comparison at scale compared to what I went into this year thinking. So I think there's some things that are obvious, but I don't think that the macro, like, the economy is great or not great, has been figured out. And the longer this lasts, and again, I think knowing this is a real estate podcast, I think Manhattan's got some real challenges. People are moving out. And I think if this really lasts until next March, you could see people getting really impatient. And I think, and from work from home, a lot of reasons people like to live in Manhattan is their office is here and they don't like to commute. Well, imagine a world where those individuals only have to come into work once or twice a week instead of 5 days a week. All of a sudden, the suburbs of Manhattan become very attractive very fast.
You're seeing the same thing though in Seattle. You're seeing the same thing in a lot of vertical living environments. Like that's become sort of the new norm. The data isn't out enough beyond the stories, right? There's a lot of stories of everybody's going to the Hamptons, everybody's going to Connecticut, everybody's going to New Jersey, everybody's going to Florida, but the data isn't out. There's a lot of online data that says the searches are massive from sort of these big industrialized cities to out to the outskirts. So we're seeing that leading indicator, but we don't have enough data yet to say with absolutism, people are leaving, right?
That's right. And I think the people that tend to make money in business are the ones who see enough data to make a conviction, right? Like the data wasn't there on social media when I bet the farm. The data wasn't there yet on sports cards, a funny thing that I've been investing in the last 2.5 years, 2 years ago, but it then showed. The data wasn't there that podcast ads were a good idea. So I'm comfortable, I'm not in the real estate business, but in the places where I pay very close attention to your point, if you wait too long for the data that everybody understands, the arbitrage is gone. And so it's going to be very interesting. I'm very curious on how it's all going to play out. But I know anecdotally in story form that a lot of my real estate agent friends that are selling in Manhattan are kind of checked out and taking the summer off because it's real slow.
Yeah.
And then the Westchester, Jersey, Connecticut, friends, and obviously my sister in Jersey, seem to be awfully busy.
Busier than they've been in a long time, especially places like Connecticut. That state has historically, at least for the last decade and a half, not done well from a residential real estate standpoint. And today, the $5 million listing that had been on the market for 3 years is now getting multiple offers. So there's some real data around there. It's really interesting. I actually wrote down for you, ready? 8 different just words and phrases. Sure. Things that we've talked about, things that I hear you talking about. The first one, you ready? I wrote down the word patience.
Yes.
And what I wrote down was your dad, my dad, us, we're like bricklayers, right? Sort of metaphorically, whether it's building the story of our life or we're building the castle, if you will, metaphorically, most people struggle with patience. And at a time like this, when I think it's really important, what are your thoughts around patience, especially for young or rock star real estate professionals?
Patience is a true business strength, true life strength that is uncomfortably not cool, which is why I think I got on it about 3 to 5 years ago, very loud. I think it actually is a byproduct of people's deep need to seem successful to others.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of the way I think about homes and other assets, or even calling yourself an entrepreneur, come from this. I think people overextend themselves across the board on everything from clothes to homes, with a 80 to 90% being grounded in other people's opinions.
Right.
And I think that when you can eliminate that judgment, whether it's your parents or your neighbors or the Joneses or social media, all of a sudden patience becomes easier. But when you're living under your means instead of over your means, and you do worry about like people thinking you drive a shitty car, then all of a sudden, patience becomes harder. So I think patience actually has a very close correlation to confidence. And I think about that a lot. And I'm a big fan of patience. I really am. I think it really, really matters.
If you were sitting with someone today who just like they get it, but they don't apply it, what would you say or do with it? I think so many people get it.
I ask them why.
Yeah.
That's the thing I poke with friends and family. I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you have like an hour and a half over dinner and some glasses of wine, or 3 hours in the backyard, or you work with them and you get the answer over a week, a lot of it comes down to judgment.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll get something like, well, my brother has a home in Connecticut, or
bingo,
because my dad's been looking, or
always
all my friends in college are married, you're going to get somewhere eventually to a place where they're going to say something about someone else. And that's the trigger. That's the insight. That's the
hook.
That's the hook. That's when I jump in and I'm like, please, let's debate this, because living your life predicated on that judgment is going to often lead to not a happy place. Like, what do you want? Like, like, I was super content in my crappy apartment in my 20s because it was super close to the store. And I liked waking up at 8:30 and being in the store by 9, that kind of stuff.
The practicality, which most
people, because I just couldn't hear the noise from the outside, whether that was my parents, my siblings, my friends, the broader world. And that really helped me. It helped me be happy. And that's ultimately what I want for people. I want them to be happy. And unfortunately, a lot of people associate money with happiness, and it is so obviously not true. No. And that's why some of these things like patience have become very important building blocks for me to communicate around. Yeah. Especially as I felt that more people were following me, I started to convert from, being flattered to feeling obligated. And so I started stretching myself over the last half decade to really challenge myself and figure out, why has this worked for me? What's working for me? And how do I communicate these things? And ended up being a lot of soft skills and traits that haven't historically been associated with alpha business leaders. And and that's, I think, what's been a little bit unique about it, and has been enjoyable to go through that process.
Yeah. People don't get that you can have an enormous capacity to care and be a great business leader. Right.
That's right. And I think people think business is too much dog eats dog, like step on people. And I just don't see it that way. I see the world far more abundant than those individuals.
Yeah, I agree. Before we're done, by the way, for the people that are listening, one of the questions I'm going to ask you at the very end is, social's pretty noisy. What does a new agent do? What does a crafty veteran do? And what's a team leader do? But I'm going to save that.
Okay.
The second thing I wrote down is content creation.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a lot of people out there that, I know there's a lot of people out there that struggle with, A, how much do I post? And B, is anybody going to care? Or the better one is, I don't even know what to post.
Yeah.
What do you say to that person? Give us some, what's some practical, tactical things of not just getting over it, but just, hey, how much, in your opinion, should somebody be posting today on all different platforms?
As much as humanly possible. My speaking to that is very simple. It is absolutely the way that people discover people. You're a person that sells real estate, or a team leader, or you're trying to attract people to your brokerage, or you're trying to build credibility in a town because you're expanding into that town because you've kind of, saturated your current market and you want to go a little further out of your zone. As far as I'm a very big fan of documenting versus creating. I think when people think they have to make a video, it's hard. But if they just, give some thought to I would almost, if you just made a video every day and looked at your calendar and just spoke to your day, it might help somebody. I think, who are you as a human? I think too many real estate agents think about putting out content that looks professional instead of just being the guy or gal that they are. A real estate agent right now in Kansas City posting that they're excited that the Royals are coming back may actually, you know this about me. I already brought up with the Jets. The Jets matter to me a lot more than if you had 14 or 4 years of experience selling homes. And people make everybody knows this. People make decisions based on people. Almost everybody listening right now had no idea what they were doing when they sold their first 5 homes.
Right.
You learned it along the way. Right. And so those first 5 people were either family relationships, acquaintances, serendipity, or likability, right? You're just a likable person. And that likability might be you're attractive, that's real life, or you're funny, or you did something well before, or you were the high school quarterback or your high school friend. There's a million variables that go into it. But as far as content creation, that also goes into self-esteem and lack of confidence / deep insecurity. Most people talk themselves out of it because they're not confident. They're worried about the judgment. They're worried that people are going to say their lighting was bad, or that was stupid, or it's just fear. Fear is an incredibly devastating energy in the world and leads to so much bad. And in this very micro version of business bad, not putting out content on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram on a daily basis to not have at least one post as a real estate agent seems to me so stunningly, shockingly big of a miss. It's just a missed opportunity.
Right.
I mean, why did you buy
it goes
bench?
up. It goes up there with like not calling your own past clients in Sphere. Do you know what I mean? It goes up there with like not asking for referrals. Like that's how big of a miss. I agree.
I think it's oxygen. I mean, and you can do it a million different ways. Maybe you've become friends with prior clients. You actually ask them, hey, do you want to do a video of like I think story time is something I've been thinking a lot about. People struggling with making content. I've been thinking a lot about like, hey, start something called story time and just tell stories. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's Janice, from Remax, let me tell you a story. My third house I ever sold. Oh God, what a disaster. Right. I think story, I mean, it's what real estate agents do with each other when they hang 100%. Out, right? Exactly. Story time. So I think that there's a million things to do. You could put, you've heard this. I think when I was on stage in 2009, it was one of my first times saying it, be the mayor of your town, interviewing people, reviewing things, school system, data, putting out a video. I mean, what we were talking about already, like, if you're in, outside of Pennsylvania in the Jersey suburbs, put out a video or a picture that talks about the increase in how many homes have sold in Cherry Hill. I don't know. Like these are all things that are very realistic. Know this. It is very black and white obvious at this point, a decade plus in, that the lack of social media is leaving out opportunity. Now, you may be the cliche 36-year vet. You've been doing this for 36 years. You're 58 years old. You are the queen bee, and you feel like you don't need it. What I keep reminding those individuals, and I've started hearing from them in the last half decade, is that's fine, but every second that means you're losing market share. And until the point where it might not be sustainable, and unless you've saved and you're in a great place, if you plan on, I would say the story goes to, if you plan on working another 12 years, you don't want your last 6 years to be crappy. And so I would say the only individuals that shouldn't be required to put out 3-4 pieces of content a day on social across 3-4 platforms are the individuals who are retiring within the next half decade. Right. And if they sell no homes in that next half decade, are in financial stability to have everything they want in their post-retirement world. If you're not one of those individuals, you really need to debate how to figure out how to put out more content, because it's every second it's becoming a bigger variable of how people make decisions on who they work with.
So I agree, and then I would argue that point, and here's what I would say. Please. Right now, with the average real estate professional being, 57, 58 years old, which means there's a whole bunch like maybe Judy Johnson from Connecticut, who might be listening or watching this, who's one of our clients who's 92, right? So Gary, by the way, hashtag be like Judy, right? Judy's making her phone calls, she's hustling, right?
My idol.
But here's what I tell people, like when they're in that position, because I remember in 2009, you were like, look, if you're going to retire in 5 years, you can watch me. I'm entertaining, but you're not going to do any of this stuff. Who cares? What I say to those agents now is, 7 years ago, I started saying agents are going to start selling their businesses. They're going to start selling the trust that they established in a marketplace. They're going to sell their client list. And that gives them a very real opportunity to retire. So I would counter that just with a different insight is, if you are that agent and you're listening right now and you're 62 years old and you think, oh my God, I'm already done and I paid off my house and I own a couple of rental properties, why do this? I would say, why not extend your brand and sell your business? How are you going to do that? You got to be relevant today, right? It can't just be the postcards, because now every one of those people, we all know that, even the US Postal Service puts it out. If you do social and postcards, you get a better response. Like doing that to extend your brand is key.
And by the way, let there be no confusion, because I've A/B tested this to the moon, billions of dollars in media spent through my companies. There is no comparison to direct mail versus Facebook. If you do Facebook properly, they're not even in the same world.
So Gary, there's no doubt, right? And as a company, we've been talking about, sort of, let's call it multi-channel marketing, right? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, both the content creation as well as the boosting side and the direct ads. We know, and I think my community say, listen to this, they're going check. Yes. Yep. Let's switch gears. We talked content creation. Let's talk about innovation. The thing that I've always admired about you and others, that do what we do. we continue to evolve. I see a lot of people getting stuck. What are your thoughts around just innovation and re-engineering yourself and getting better, being relevant to your customer? What are your thoughts?
It's about not falling in love with what got you there.
Yeah.
To me, when, not if, when social media is not the dominant current way to communicate, I'm going to be thrilled. I feel no emotional tie towards social, even though that's where most people see me right now.
Yeah.
No different than when I was a wine guy and started doing business content. Everyone was confused and this and that. And I'm just like, this is just real to me. If I started doing business content in the late 90s, I would have been the email and Google AdWords guy.
That's right. That's right.
So the answer to your question is don't get, and this goes back to the postcards. This goes back to the bench ads. This goes back to being part of the Chamber of Commerce or email or Google AdWords or Facebook. I'm just too scared to not continue to try to challenge myself. I have no interest in, the amount of people that are going to lose because they're 100% Instagram now, and Instagram will evolve over the next 5 years and not be Instagram as we know it, is going to be very heavy. And so you've got to continue to challenge yourself.
We're already seeing that. Look at all the influencers. I'm not kidding. Guy moves in 10 houses down from me, rents this ocean view pad, and out front, Lamborghini, just it's one hotshot car after another, right? Stereotype. On his door, my son said he had some symbol for whatever his Instagram was, on his front door, right? Like the ego, I wanted to punch the guy, right? I wanted to walk by and literally scratch his car. I didn't, but you know what I mean? I just see that. Are you ready? COVID hits within 2 weeks, he's out of the house.
Yeah, 100%.
We've already seen it.
I thought the punchline of that story was going to be that he's actually a TikTok celebrity, not Instagram, right? Like things evolve. Things evolve.
For sure.
And so, I think it's very, very important to put yourself out of business before somebody else does it for you.
Right.
And so I innovate out of necessity. I test Alexa skills, even though they're not real yet. I look at AR and VR. I look at machine learning. I look at messaging. I've been very aggressive on text platform.
Yep. Hey, thank you.
You're welcome. So these are real things. And so, I think that I just view it again as oxygen, no different than content creation, not getting caught up in what got me here. And so I will continue to look at, every, advertising in esports and
Twitch, wherever.
And by the way, TikTok's on the cusp of being 30 to 40-year-old all day long. And so I could see TikTok being a big conversation in real estate, in the coming months. And I'm sure there's plenty of real estate agents who've already sold a house from a single post on TikTok. And I know that's not the conversation in the real estate world. And so, that's just the game. It's always been the game and always will be the game.